Donald Trump's new travel ban and visa restrictions are making headlines, but could they disrupt Illini basketball? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
To another episode of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here at Locked On Illini, where I continue to provide you coverage daily. That's right, every single day of the beloved. If you'd like to support the channel, it costs you absolutely nothing. The only thing I ask for in return is if you can smash that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the show. It really is my goal to hit 5,000 subs before we kick the football season off on August 29th against Western Illinois. Now, I feel like I need to do a precursor on today's episode, a disclaimer, I guess is a better word. I'm staying out of politics. This show is not political in any sort of way. This is not Locked On Politics. If you ever meet me outside the show and we share a drink together or have a burger together, you won't ever see me discuss politics because it's not a part of my life. But the recent news that everyone's essentially going to be talking about on Monday is this new travel ban. And quite honestly, if you take a look at it, this could have an impact on Illinois sports. I've gotten over a half dozen messages just over the past week. In fact, this particular topic was suggested by an emailer late last week. So, this is a topic that concerns Illini fans, and that's why I'm going to speak on it. And I basically done my own research on this topic. So again, I don't want anyone thinking I'm politically leaning in any sort of way. I'm doing my best, and trust me, I've gone over my script multiple times to make sure that it doesn't show a favor one way or the other. I'm going to try to make this as much about facts as possible. It's sad that I have to give this disclaimer, but I'm just not trying to upset any potential listeners or watchers in any sort of way. Just know this. I'm trying to make this as much about Illinois basketball as I possibly can. And of course, the topic of today's show is the new travel ban and visa restrictions from the Donald Trump regime. And with so much international influence on this year's roster, it's a question that Illinois fans and the coaching staff kind of have no choice but to take note. So the travel ban and new visa restrictions aren't just political headlines. They're causing some problems in the world of college sports. Over the past couple weeks, the State Department has already paused all student visa interviews at U.S. embassies all around the world. And that pause for certain groups of people couldn't have come at a worse time. Every summer, thousands of international athletes, many of them freshmen, begin the process of securing their student visas so they can play college sports in the United States in the fall. But right now, that entire system is frozen. Why? Because the government is overhauling how it vets international students. As part of Trump's directive, consulates are now being required to screen the social media activity of all visa applicants, including deleted posts. That causes embassies to halt interviews while they implement these changes. No interviews, no visa, no athlete. And that's just kind of the start. On top of the interview freeze, Trump also rolled out a new travel ban covering 12 countries with full bans and 7 others with severe restrictions. These include places like Haiti, Myanmar, Sudan, Turkmenistan, Cuba, and Venezuela, all of which have produced NCAA athletes in the past. Also, the travel ban includes language giving the Secretary of State the ability to revoke visas already issued and even block enrollment at specific universities. So we've got a visa interview freeze, a new ban on nearly 20 countries, potential restrictions on elite universities, and extra red tape on things like social media vetting. That's not just a minor policy tweak, right? This is a whole redoing of the immigration process. Now let's talk about college sports. The policy is already putting college coaches across the country a little bit on edge. One Division I basketball coach told ESPN that a quarter of his roster might not be able to enter the U.S. if the delays stretch into August. Vermont's men's soccer coach, who just won a national championship, by the way, said his 3 top international recruits might be stranded. They aren't fringe players, they're his game changers. International recruiting agencies say interest in coming to the U.S. is already dropping. One said they'd seen a 50% drop in future international student athlete enrollments in just the last 6 months. Bottom line, college athletics is staring down a logistical nightmare, not just this year, potentially for years to come. So how does this affect the Illinois basketball program? Well, the good news is, the good news first. The Illinois' current international players, and I'm talking about Tomislav Ivišić, Zvonimir Ivišić, David Mirković, Mihailo Petrović, all are coming from nations not on the travel ban. Croatia, Montenegro, and Serbia are not included in the full or restricted categories. That means on paper, they're safe. But to my understanding, that's only if they don't leave the country. You see, here's where things get a little tricky. Even though their home countries aren't banned, the student visa interview pause still affects everyone globally. So if Illinois international players traveled home at some point and need to renew their visa before entering, they could be stuck. There's currently no way for them to get that interview. And there's more. We don't know how long the pause will last. The State Department claims the system will get back online soon, but there's no timeline. And if Trump chooses to expand the travel ban, which he's already threatened to do, other countries could get added. So Illinois might not be in the crosshairs today, but it's kind of a moving target. Another big risk, future recruiting, especially when it comes to Illinois. Brad Underwood has tapped into the Balkan pipeline hard and successfully. But if visa wait times spike or if political tensions rise in that region, even those countries that are currently marked safe could be impacted. That adds risks to any new commitment from that part of the world. And make no mistake, immigration policy is already becoming a factor in recruiting worldwide. Sources close to the program say Illinois is already taking precautions. Players have been advised not to leave the country unless they have to. The athletic department is working with immigration attorneys to fast-track visa renewals if needed. They're treating this seriously, as they should. And let's be clear, Illinois is in better shape than many other programs. Their current guys are already here, and Brad Underwood hasn't shown signs of slowing down on the international front. But in a year, when Illinois could be pushing for a deep tournament run, this isn't just a back burner type of concern. One visa delay, one travel mishap, one unexpected restriction, that's all it could take to throw a roster into chaos. It's funny, we like to talk about Illinois basketball in terms of lineups, matchups, Big Ten rivalries, but the truth is the 2025-26 Illinois season might hinge on something completely off the court, and that's politics. But that's not just the reality of modern college sports, that's the reality of life. It seems like everything we touch nowadays is involved with politics one way or the other. And it's one more reason this offseason matters just as much as the one before it. I'm very curious on your guys' thoughts. Now, to lighten the mood, I do have to laugh a little bit because obviously us Illini fans, we love this whole international recruiting. Well, at least most of us do. I don't want to speak for the entire fan base, but at least the majority of the fan base recognize that Brad Underwood has found a niche, found a way to develop a roster kind of forward-thinking before the other teams have started doing it. Now you can see a lot of the other college programs also looking into Europe, but this is something Brad Underwood has essentially been doing for a couple seasons now. And it would be so Illinois if all of a sudden when Illinois finds its advantage, that somehow this advantage gets the rug pulled out from under them. Now, again, I'm not saying that's going to happen. And as of now, from my understanding, and I should have been clear about that from the beginning. I should have said that from the beginning. I've reached out to a couple sources within the athletic department, and those are my sources plus my very own research. I've been digging over this over the weekend to try to be as truthful as possible. So I might be wrong in some sort of aspects, and if I am, please let me know in the comments. point it out to me, because I will correct it in the future. But to my knowledge, this is where things essentially lie with the Illini men's basketball roster next season. I don't think, as of now, I don't think we have a big cause for concern. But as is with the world today, right? Things are one way, one moment, and things change the next. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Right now, you can get Illinois to make the playoffs at plus 630 on FanDuel. That means for you non-bettors that you get positive expected value if you put in the bet and Illinois can make the playoffs at least once out of every 6 simulations. What do you think? Are those pretty good odds? I think they are. And that's something I'm absolutely contemplating myself putting a couple pennies on. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. And welcome back to Locked On Illini. If you haven't already, again, make sure you hit the like button on this particular video. Look, there's no such thing as an off season here at the Locked On Network. We continue to push through content each and every day, even when there's not much content to push out there. Why? Because of the continued support of fans like you. Speaking of fans like you, if you're interested, click on the link in the description. There's an Illini Discord community. We have over 300 members scattered all across the country, continuing to talk Illini sports, professional sports, life, whatever it is. If your Uncle Johnny doesn't pick up the phone every time you want to talk about the most recent Illinois recruiting football weekend like we just got finished having, well, you know what? Don't worry. Don't bother Uncle John. Click on the link in the description and you have other Illini fans who are absolutely interested in, and you can have that discourse with them. So some of us have been watching the NBA Finals and, watching teams like the Indiana Pacers and Oklahoma City Thunder. First off, it's just nice not seeing the Los Angeles Lakers or Boston Celtics or one of the names that we seem to see every single year in the finals. It's nice to see two young teams who are really developed and built in non-traditional ways make it to the championship. And watching the Indiana Pacers, who I think is one of the big surprises in recent memory. Keep in mind, Oklahoma City, their record was incredible. They were one of the best teams in recent memory. They were expected in a lot of ways to get to the NBA Finals. The Indiana Pacers, not so much. In fact, if you take a look at their run, they've come back from being down by I think 7+ points with just a couple minutes left in an unheard of level. And the Pacers themselves were a very solid basketball team, but the one thing I kind of want to discuss today is a topic which, ironically, may need a disclaimer itself. I joke because of the previous topic. Anytime you bring politics into a show, people tend to be a little bit more sensitive. But I feel like this topic gets Illini fans riled up even more than what politics does, and that's what me talking about what this Illinois offense looks like. And I say that because I will say that the following thoughts are mine and my own. You may agree or you may disagree. And, again, I'd love to hear why you agree or disagree. But I just want to say, I say this on the show constantly, right? That Tyler Underwood, Brad Underwood, the younger staff, they're building a team based on analytics and numbers. And I've said this in the past on the show multiple times, that usually what you see happening in the NBA is what eventually you're going to see happen at the college basketball level. And when I watch these Indiana Pacers play, it genuinely does remind me of what I think the ideal offense that Brad Underwood is trying to instill here in Champaign. It's a team that really tries to quicken the pace. And that does not mean fast break all the time. That's not what I mean. But I think in basketball now at the professional level, it's all about putting pressure on the defense. We see it in the football aspect as well. You see a lot of no huddle in today's football game, but I believe it's also apparent in the pro basketball side. Essentially, you just want to keep the ball moving and you want to keep your feet moving so that the defense never really has a chance to settle down. And that's what the Indiana Pacers do so incredibly well. And that's a big reason, I think, why they're in the NBA Finals today. That's what Brad Underwood, and I hate to bring up his name because I know it brings up a lot of animosity in the chats, Tyler Underwood, are trying to do. In their style of offense that they're trying to develop, they're just trying to be absolutely relentless on offense. Now, look, do I wish the three-point shot would fall more than they did last season? Of course I do. But I also understand that shooting, more than anything else, could depend on variance. And who knows? This upcoming year, as a team, they could shoot over 40%. Now, would I be surprised? Sure, but not that much because that's the type of talent that's on this team. Kyle Boswell shot 40% just 2 seasons ago. Ben Hummerkaus was an elite three-point shooter just a couple of seasons ago. Obviously, it didn't replicate last year. It didn't translate to Illinois, but who knows? Again, it's the whole talk of regression to the mean. They could experience bumps in their second seasons in Champaign. I think the issue with Brad and Tyler, and mainly Brad, who I'm going to focus this conversation on, is when those shots aren't falling, at some point you would think you would adjust. Likely in game, even if you believe in the big picture when it comes to the season and you want to keep shooting threes, that's fine, because again, shooting variance. But in a game, the one issue that I think that a lot of us fans have, maybe not the Brad diehards, but certainly the detractors, and even guys like me who are kind of in the middle. I'm a Brad supporter, but I don't think he's infallible in any sort of way. You just wish that he could adjust away from his, figure something else out. Let's just put it that way when it comes to three-point shooting. But all in all, there's a reason that this offense has been one of the most efficient offenses in the country in the last 2 seasons. Sure, a lot of it has to do with talent, but the system matters as well. And that's why I know a lot of Illini fans, and I don't disparage you for this, don't watch the NBA. I know the NBA, more than other sports, has lost a decent amount of their fan base just because they don't like the style of play that the professional level has turned into, or maybe they don't like some of the individuals and the way they act and how that is showcased at that league level. I don't blame you for that. Look, I grew up in Chicago in the 90s and during the Michael Jordan era, what I consider the golden era. So for me, I can't let go of the NBA, even if I tried. But by watching the NBA, again, I can see when an offense works, how efficient it can be. And so when I think about what I think is Brad's ultimate vision for this basketball team, I think it could work. And I'm in support of the idea. Look, Brad's been a guy who's always been at the cutting edge, always thinking a couple steps ahead of his peers, at least, again, all in my opinion, whether it was going after talent in the transfer portal, whether talking about NIL, whether we were talking about international recruiting, which has been the latest craze. Brad always seems to be a step ahead, and then the rest of the country catches up to him. I genuinely, personally, just think that this offensive system that they're trying to build right now, keep in mind, we're not the only ones who do this. Alabama does the same thing. There's other countries, elite teams in this country that are also trying to replicate the NBA style of offense. I think Illinois fans, and I think it's justifiable, are just frustrated because last year, when those shots weren't falling, it looked really bad. And it really looked like the wheels were falling off. And, do players go in to season-long slumps? I guess, apparently. But what happens starting next year if all of a sudden Ben Hummerkaus continues to miss the wide open opportunities that he has? And what if some of these other players don't get their three-point shooting percentages up? That's going to be a question for Brad Underwood to answer. As I said on the show last week, I don't know necessarily if this team has the talent to make the three-point shooting that this team tends to want. But every other facet, again, the pace, to put the pressure on the defense, to not let the defense settle down, get set. And I think Illinois absolutely, especially with guys like Petrović and Stojakovic and maybe even Tomislav, are going to be able to utilize that aspect very well. So I ask, if those of you who are watching the NBA Finals, and I know there is a select few of you out there because I'm conversing with you via DM on social media, which, by the way, you can find me at TheSunnyV or any of the Locked On Illini. Just keep in mind, I control all those accounts, so feel free to message me. You let me know if you see any sort of resemblance at all between what the Pacers are doing and what the Illini are attempting to do. I'm very curious on your thoughts. The Illini had the football side at least had a big recruiting weekend over the weekend. I know a lot of you are probably wondering why I haven't discussed that. I will. I just want to give it its proper attention, make it like probably the primary segment on a future episode sometime this week. So make sure if that's something you're interested in and you don't want to miss a thing, that you are subscribed to the channel. Speaking of which, I will say again, look, it's the off season. So if there's a certain topic that you think is worth discussing, today's, the one that it opened up with, was directly from a viewer of the show who had concerns and wanted me to discuss the potential of the disruption of the Illini basketball season. And so I took the next couple of days to dig deep as best as I can. And, here I am today discussing it. If there's a certain topic that you want to see, let me know in the chat of the show, the comment section of this particular show, or just reach out to me in any sort of way. Again, you can email me at talkillini@gmail.com. I always try to respond, at least within the day or two, to any inquiries that you might possibly have. A couple news and notes before I let you go. Another question that was presented to me via email, and I'm not making fun of this individual. I literally told him in the email I was going to say this, and he was okay with it. No, Brad Underwood is not a contender for the New York Knicks job. Okay, it's funny, right? The life of being an Illini fan, it's with Brad Underwood, you're always concerned in the off seasons. You hear the Kansas State rumors, and then you hear anytime the Texas job opens up, hey, is Brad a candidate? Could Texas offer a Godfather offer and Brad leave to go coach down in Austin? It's not going to happen. Look, Brad is a very good coach. I think the contract that Brad Underwood signed a couple weeks ago is going to be the last contract that Brad Underwood does sign. I don't think he's even on NBA radars. I don't know if he deserves to be on NBA radars. Brad's going to be coaching the Illini for a very, very long time. So just to answer an email that I got over the weekend, I know Brad does like to coach at Madison Square Garden, apparently. It's going to be 4 years in a row. And yeah, he might have the opportunity to do it 41 times per season. But I put 0.001% chance of Brad Underwood being the next head coach in New York. Can you imagine, by the way, the New York media, if the New York Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau and hired Brad Underwood? What kind of scrutiny that would get? Silently, if I weren't an Illinois fan, I'd want the hire to happen just for that. That's going to just about wrap it up for today's episode. Thank you so much for making Locked On Illini your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's it for today. Again, I got a jam-packed week of content for you. If you don't want to miss a thing, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And until next time, ILL. Love you guys.